who feeds the birds of the air.
He who floods the hills with sunshine.
He whose love all creatures share.
Will he not clothe us? Will he not feed us?
Are we not like them his own?
Fill your chalice at his fountain.
Know that you live not alone. Know that you live not alone.
Good morning and welcome. It's a joy to be here with all of you. I came all the way from India to be with my Guru Bhais here, and it's a joy to share the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda ji with you. My name is Nayaswami, Dhyana, and I'd like to ask you a question. The voice of God calls us to awaken Him. How will He find us when He comes?
Awake and ready. And when He asks us to dedicate our lives ever more perfectly, how will He find us?
Awake and ready. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Great Masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru Deva, Paramahansa Yogananda ji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. Help us to uplift our consciousness.
Help us to uplift our consciousness.
We aspire to know thee.
We aspire to know thee.
Bless us in this satsang and in our daily lives to feel thy presence now and always. We are thy children.
We are thy children.
Receive us.
Receive us.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thy light of melody, oh, Swami Kriyananda's words from Affirmations for Self-Healing on humility. Humility is not self-deprecation. It is self-forgetfulness. It is knowing that God alone is the doer. It is the realization that nothing in this shadow world of appearances is all that important, except as it draws us closer to the Lord. Never tell yourself that you are sinful or weak or incompetent or lazy, except as such a statement may help you to surrender joyfully to God's power. Then live by that power. Never wear the mask of false humility. Humility is self-acceptance and self-honesty. You have a right to all power if you would seek it in infinity, and if you never hold the thought that it resides in your little self. Let's affirm together. I live by thy power, Lord.
I live by thy power, Lord.
What I have is ever thine.
What I have is ever thine.
Ever thine.
Ever thine.
I live by thy power, Lord.
I live by thy power, Lord.
What I have is ever thine.
What I have is ever thine.
Ever thine.
Ever thine.
I live by thy power, Lord.
By thy power, Lord.
What I have is ever thine.
What I have is ever thine.
Ever thine. I live by thy power, Lord.
I live by thy power, Lord.
What I have is ever thine. Ever thine. Now mentally, I live by thy power, Lord. What I have is ever thine. Lifting it from, broadcasting from the superconscious center. I live by thy power, Lord. What I have is ever thine, ever thine. I live by thy power, Lord. What I have is ever thine, ever thine. Pray silently with me. Thou art the doer, Lord, not I. Express thy perfection through me as I strive ever eagerly to live in thy light. Oh, peace. Amen. Good morning, friends, again. Good morning, in-person friends. Good morning, online friends. And it's an absolute joy to be hosting Nayaswami Dhyana, as she said, from all the way from Ananda, India. We've had the great joy this week of taking her all around Los Angeles and having tea together, having meals together, having what we call car anga, which is car satsanga, as we drive hither and thon around LA. But we're so grateful for Dhyana and for just her example, her dedication to God, and the absolute thrill of joy that comes from that. So I'm going to share from our Rays of the One Light. These are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Gita by Swami Kriyananda. And this week is How High Should We Aspire? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The passage this week is from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5. I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. The easiest explanation for these words is that they were spoken in criticism of the scribes and Pharisees, particularly since Jesus was often verbally attacked by them and stood up to them fearlessly. However, it wouldn't have been much of a challenge to the disciples who aspired to spiritual perfection to tell them, don't be like those who lack any such aspiration. Jesus, in fact, says only a few verses later, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. What Jesus was referring to here then was the self-righteousness of the priests. Don't seek perfection, he was saying to his disciples, in the image you project towards others. Don't be satisfied with a goodness born merely of ego definitions. The highest virtue is to transcend the very thought of personal virtue in the realization of God alone as the doer. Before this realization, even the thought, I am kind or I am truthful, is self-limiting. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 7th chapter, yet hard the wise Mahatma is to find, that man who saith, all is Vasudev. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
I'd like to start with a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. Make me a lion of thy all-conquering wisdom. I, a lion cub of the Divine Mother, found myself thrown into life among the sheep of human frailties, of fear, failure, and disease. Living long among them, I learned to bleat with weakness, forgetting my lion nature and its roars, which could frighten away all petty, pestering sorrows. O lion of realization, thou didst drag me away from those bleating sheep to the mirror-smooth waters of meditation. There didst thou cry, gaze, but I held my eyes tightly shut, bleating with fear. Thy roar of wisdom then reverberated through my body. Thou madest me by hard shaking and spiritual urging, open my eyes, and there, low in the crystal pool of my inner peace, I saw my features to be even as thine own. Now I know myself as the lion of cosmic power. I will bleat no more with fear, weakness, and suffering, for I roar now with vibrant, almighty power. I bound about through the forest of all experiences, ceasing little creatures of vexing worries, timid fears, and wild hyenas of disbelief, devouring them ruthlessly. O lion of immortality, roar through me thine all-conquering power of wisdom. Isn't that fantastic? That's just such a beautiful poem of Yoganandaji's, and it's a call to rise up to our destiny, to who and what we really are, to aspire to the heights Not to say, oh, I can't do it, or I won't do it, or I'm not good enough, or I have too many problems, I have too many worries, I'm fearful, I'm doubtful. But Master came to show that we have the spark of the divine, of the infinite inside of ourselves. We only need to pull back that curtain through meditation, through prayer, through devotion, through this wonderful chanting, which is much like the India chanting. Thank you. And to be able to rise up and be who and what we really are. When Yogananda ji came out on the platform to speak, he would often run, and his robes would be flapping back, his hair flowing back, and he would, as we did today, he would shout out, how feels everybody? How is everybody? Because he wanted to awaken people to their soul's nature. And then he would have people chanting. That's why I asked them to chant today, Oh God, beautiful. He had people chanting that once for an hour and a half. People were in ecstasy. People felt who and what they really were. They rose up to their highest nature. Many went into deep experiences through that chant. And this is what we have to realize, that Yogananda ji came. He came and he showed the way to freedom in God, away from the worries of this little world. He would look out to his disciples and he would say, I see you all as light. You don't know how beautiful you are. And the disciples, oh, he's not looking at me, but I see you all as light. Swami Kriyanandaji would sometimes come into a room and he would say, good morning, great souls. And people would, who was he talking to? But he's talking to me, he's talking to you. And Master said that millions will find God through these teachings, millions. He said, I know, I have seen it. And then he would quote from the Bhagavad Gita, out of 1,000, Krishna's words, out of 1,000, one seeks me. And out of the 1,000 who seek me, perhaps, that's not a good word, perhaps one knows me. The Master said, our percentages are better. And think about it, our percentages are better. We have our line of gurus, we have places like this, we have Kriya Yoga, we have satsang, we have seva, we have all of our guru bhais, we have all the good karma. Master said it takes very, very, very good karma to even want to know God. To even be in this room, I would say it takes very, very, very good karma. And I remember when I came onto the path, I read Master's book, autobiography. I hope you all have read it. I saw his picture and it was so magnetic. And I'm born in LA. I was born and raised here. And I didn't know anything about India gurus, karma, reincarnation, levitation. I mean, you could go on and on what he was speaking about in that book. But I looked at his picture and I read it and I felt this man knows what he's talking about. Yogananda ji was a master. He said, I killed Yogananda long ago. No one dwells in this temple now but God. And I met this I don't know if he was a master, but he was a great soul. His name, you all would understand, his name was Brother Sunyabai, zero. He said, there's nobody here. And Master came to show that's who you are, zero ego, zero desires, zero attachments, zero, all the things that you think you are, all these self-identifications that we think we are. I'm black, I'm white, I've got this kind of hair, I'm American, I'm Indian. You take all that away, and there's the spark of the divine that is there, which Yogananda ji and all the great masters have come to teach. And so when I came onto the path, the spiritual path, I thought I had everything. I had everything. I had a good education. After the education, I had a good job, a good paying job. I had a nice place. I had a good car. I had friends. And I thought, I've got everything now. I'll be so happy. I was 21 years old. Huh? I wasn't happy. And I just kept thinking, there's got to be more to life. There's got to be more to life than this. And one night, I just prayed all night. And I'm sure you've had some nights like that. I prayed all night just saying, if there's a God, I want to know you. I want to know what this life is about. Where am I coming from? Where am I going? What am I supposed to do with my life? These are questions that the soul asks. And then that very next day, Yogananda ji showed me the way. It's a miracle, really. I was doing work with my kids, so I was working with the Big Sisters program. I was buying the children something in a little store, and I saw this book, a little pamphlet that said Transcendental Meditation. You remember those days? And I just went, whoa, I didn't know anything about meditation, but something just grabbed me and said, buy it. It's an incredible story. I bought that pamphlet. I was at my lunchtime at work. So I went in the park. I was sitting reading. I was looking at these people are sitting with this back straight and, they're meditating. And I didn't know anything about meditation. And you know what happened? Down from me in the same park, another bench, a little ways down, was a man. He was sitting, meditating. And I looked at the book. I looked at the man. I ran down there, and I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I remember he opened his eyes. He says, well, I was meditating. I said, I'm just reading. I thought that was my first prayer that was answered. I said, I'm just reading. What book did he give me? In 1 week, I learned TM. I was meditating. After not knowing anything, I was meditating. What book did he give me? Autobiography of a Yogi. This is how God responds. We think God doesn't hear. Master said God responds to all prayers, but restless ones only a little. And that's the thing to remember. Keep your prayer focused and concentrated. And so I began to meditate, and I began to live the life of a yogi. That was almost 45 years ago. And I began to feel the presence of God in my life. And it was so important. And that was the missing piece. That brought peace. That brought love. That brought joy into my life. And I remember I started to meditate, and I just said, this feels so familiar. I know you felt that. I felt like, oh God, what have I been doing? At least I only wasted the 21 years. But I said, what have I been doing? And then I started doing the yoga postures. I said, God, I love these. They make you feel so good. How come I haven't done these? And then I started chanting, and I heard masters chants like, oh God, beautiful, and oh thou King of the infinite, door of my heart, and all the beautiful chants. I thought, I love these chants. They felt so familiar. When I met my Guru Bhais up at Ananda village, it felt so familiar. This was my life. This is why I came. Up to then, I was living somebody else's life. How high should you aspire? Just go to work. Go to work, make the money, and you're done. And I came over here. I said, this is what I want to aspire to. I want to seek God. I want to seek truth. And I want to share. And I've been able to share my life. I lived in Europe for 7 years, going all throughout Europe, helping people learn these teachings. I went through Africa, 3 different countries there, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, helping masters work there. I went to Australia for a couple of months. I helped there. I've been in India almost 18 years. That's a long time. And I love being in India. And everybody there is like, I want to learn, I want to learn, I want to learn. So we have huge gatherings. Swamiji's, I think his larger gathering was 3,000 people came. 1,000 couldn't even get in. Hundreds have come to ours. And I asked how many people have read Autobiography of a Yogi. I would say 90% of the people in the room, every time, have read that book. Now they want to know what to do. Such a blessing. And I think that, you can teach these things easily in India. I remember once I with Jayaji, Nayaswami Jaya, I hope you know, he's one of the directors there. So we had just finished a Kriya initiation. We were going through the airport to go back home. And another friend, Ramani, was with us. So we were going through, and we were going through the area where they scan your bags and they check you and everything. So we were going through, and I was there, and the lady, she brought me in this little cubicle, and she had their scanner, and she was checking. And then I was just so blissful because we just finished this wonderful ceremony. like a few hours before that. And so she said, well, who are you? And I told her about Master and so on. Well, where are you from? And what are you doing here in India? And so I kept talking to her then. So I told her about meditation. She says, oh, I've been wanting to learn that. And I said, oh, really? She said, can I just learn something now? And I said, why not? So right there in that little cubicle, and then Ramani was next, and she kept looking at her watch. Like, what's happening in there? And I taught that lady how to meditate, Hong Sa, and I gave her the website. I gave her my number, and first I had her looking here, and she was looking up, and she said, oh, this feels so good. I love this. And so it took maybe 5 minutes, and then I tell you the miraculous part of that, I saw her again at the airport. They had, she was at another part of the airport, but I was giant. We were, as you could tell, we were traveling a lot. We were going all over India. So we were sitting there. This was in Mumbai. So we were sitting at the airport, and I hear someone behind me saying, ma'am? And I looked back, and I said, did I do something wrong? Or she had on her uniform. She said, don't you remember me? You taught me how to meditate. I said, are you still meditating? She says, yes. She says, I want the next step. And I said, Jaya, you have the meditation book? He had that book. This is your next step. Isn't that beautiful? The people everywhere, they want peace. They want light. They want joy in their lives. They want happiness. And I remember at another talk, I think some of you all will for sure resonate with this. So Jayaji and I were giving a talk, and at the end, a man, he raised his hand. There was questions and answers. He raised his hand. He said, I just got one question to ask you. And we said, okay, well, what? He said, what powers do you have? I just looked at Jaya. I said, he's got the powers. And he said, I don't think I have any powers. And then everybody, he doesn't have any powers. Why are we here if he doesn't have any powers? So then he said, well, wait, I might have one power. I love this answer. He said, everybody was like this. He said, the power to be happy at will. Was that class packed the next day? Absolutely. Because Master gave that city the power to be happy at will. Isn't that beautiful? I love that story because it's who and what we are. So how are we going to keep that power, that city going to keep our energy aspiring to God? Well, we have to keep in the satsang. Don't think you can go on alone. I tried it. It doesn't work. Be with other Guru Bhais. Be online or be in here. Be in the ashrams. Be with others. Also, devotion is so important. Master told Swamiji, you must get devotion. You're going to have a long, dry path. He was so intellectual. And you know what he did? Swamiji was 22 years old, I think. When he first came to Yoganandaji, and Yoganandaji said, he knew he was just overly intellectual. And he said, now come in this room with me. So he brought Swamiji there. And he told one of the sisters, now turn off the lights. And so then Swamiji didn't know what was going on. The master had the sister one of the nuns bring in this paper bag. And it had this little toy device, like a toy pistol in it. So it was all dark. So all Swamiji heard was the crinkling of the bag. Then Master pulls this little pistol out, and he shoots up. It had sparks coming out. And then he looks over at Swamiji and says, how do you like it, Walter? And Swamiji went, I don't know. He didn't know what to say. Then he had another little device in there that shot this like a sort of like a parachute up in there. And the master watched it go down, and everybody was watching. And then he turns to Swamiji and says, how do you like it? And Swamiji said, I guess they're all right, sir. And he said something about only the little children. How do you start? Suffer the little children to come unto me, because such is the kingdom of heaven. But your heart has to be open. There has to be a receptivity. There was one disciple who he was shy, but he loved Master, and he didn't want to say anything in front of him. So he wrote him a note and put it there by the door. And Master got the note, and he responded. He always responded to love. And then that same disciple, I believe it was, he would in his mind be saying, I love you, Guru. I love you. How many people walk through the streets of LA thinking of God? They think of the traffic. I get to work, How many people in their minds, Om Guru, Om Guru. This disciple would just, in his mind, I love you, Master. I love you, Master. I love you. Master walked by and said, I love you too. Because he could feel. And he feels the devotion of the disciples. There was one man, Horace, who could barely walk. It was hard for him to talk. And but he did his seva. And Master said, he's nearly fully liberated. And all the other disciples went, him? Like anybody else but him? Master said, Divine Mother is pleased with his devotion. So he's nearly fully free. And someone said, well, that must be a very simple devotion. Master said, oh, that's what God loves. Just come from your heart. So bhakti, devotion, satsang, chanting, these chants are spiritualized and they uplift you. Also the techniques, doing kriya, om, looking into the light. There was Master with his nephew, Hare Krishna Ghosh. There's a beautiful story in in his book, stories about with Master, and he said about looking at the spiritual eye. So his mother and her sister would always ask Master, show us something that we know that God is real. And Master said, no, I'm not going to. They just show us, please show us. So finally he said, okay, I'll show you something. So he told Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna was like 15 years old. He said, Hare Krishna, he had everybody leave the room. He said, no, Hare Krishna, you stay, shut the door, and turn off the light. And the sisters were there, and the Master and Hare Krishna Ghosh. So what he says in his book is that, Hare Krishna said, Master, he said some slokas that Hare Krishna didn't know what he was saying. And then he looked at his mother's face, and it just was like this light in her face. So afterwards, Master said, Om Shanti Shanti. Okay, Hare Krishna, turn on the light. And so Hare Krishna said his mother and his aunt were like beaming. And he said, Mother, what did you see? And she said, I can't tell you. It was so beautiful. So then Master later said, I showed your mother and your aunt Bhagavan Jyoti. Wow. The light of God. And this he's showing us. Merging through Om, going through the light. All of these, this is what we're aspiring to do, is to go into the consciousness of God. And as you do, your problems fall away. Everybody's dwelling on problem. That's their mantra, problem. Every day you see them, and this is written on their forehead. Problem. You can change the mantra to, oh God, beautiful. I love you, God. I give my heart to you. Change the mantra, and you will find, and I'm telling you from decades on the path, that the things that you don't need to be there, they're gone away. I used to keep pictures, my driver's license pictures from like years. I don't know if you've ever done that. Boy, some of them are scary. I look at those earlier years and I went, whoa, who was that? Then they got a little better. A little better. Look at some of your old pictures. It's scary. Frightening. But as you're on the path, there's more glow. There's more energy. There's more magnetism. There's a happiness in your heart. There's a selflessness. There's a joy. Isn't it so? And you just feel better. And I can look back and I see things, they're just thrown back. It's like a nail in a board. If you keep pulling and pulling and pulling, you don't know how much is in there, but you keep pulling and pop, it's gone. You just say, I don't have moods anymore. I don't have anger anymore. I don't have fears anymore. I don't have those delusions. I don't have those attachments. I don't have them. From my practices and my Guru's grace, I am free. This is the life of a yogi. And Master said, in closing, he said to repeat those words of samadhi. He said every day, just to feel your state of freedom in God. And that day, Banat, Banjai. It's coming. It's coming. And you can feel it as you go longer on the path. I'm saying to some of you who are new, it gets easier and easier. Things come, but it's just not, you're bigger than them. At the beginning, they're big and you're little. But as you get your aura stronger, you get some Shakti moving, you start doing Kriya Yoga, the Om technique, you start really dedicating your life and serving as these people at the ashram are serving here, your life changes. And then you begin to see and feel the presence of God. I'll close with the story of Sri Chaitanya. He had many disciples, and one day they were all asking, well, when will I find God? And and he said, okay, you're nearly there. Well, what about me, Master? When will I find God? Oh, well, you maybe 5 more lifetimes or something. And, well, what about me, Master? So he went like that, different ones, and then his foremost disciple said, well, Master, what about me? And he said, oh my God, that's 200 lifetimes. And the man he walked out of the room. And the other disciples were like, God, poor guy, I thought he was advanced. Well, look, he's got 200 lifetimes to go, and nobody had 200 lifetimes. And so all of them went to just, be with him and help him. And they thought he would just be really, really upset. So they go outside. He was on the porch. He was just, yes. He was just in samadhi. He was just going into a divine state. They said, brother, haven't you heard the Master said 200 lifetimes? Maybe you didn't hear him. He said 200 lifetimes. He said, yes, my brothers, did you not hear? He told me I would find God. Isn't that beautiful? And the Master came out and touched him, and he found God in that moment. Why? He kept it in his mind. He kept it in his heart. He was aspiring the whole time. He wasn't like, I don't know, I'll never make it. Everybody else will make it. I'll be the last in the lane. It was like he just kept it in his mind. Then at just that time, it was like a ripe fruit. He was free. Keep your mind here and your heart open and your hand in the Guru's. You will find, you don't know how you got there, but somehow you got to the end and Master was waiting. I had a dream, a rare dream of Master, where there were many of us in a big hall and we were all done with our life. We were waiting for Master. And only person I remember was Swamiji was there, Anandaji. At a certain point, Master opened the doors and he came in and his hair was flying back and he was so happy. There's other people, I didn't recognize them, but they all came in and he was chanting this chant. And it was so powerful. And he came and touched people and shook hands and blessed people and put their... And there was none of this, you didn't energize, you didn't do enough Kriya. I saw you slept during the meditation. There was none of that. He was so pleased. And then at a certain point, he disappeared. And so did we. that beautiful? That was decades ago. I had that dream. And I know that's a true dream. For all who stick with it, Master will come. He said, I or one of the masters will come and take you. Never forget it. He's waiting. God bless you.
Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's death, selfless friendship, blameless birth, cherished peace, naught else has worth? Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's death, selfless friendship, blameless